Guys, give me a show back in the video. Today's video is what if Dawn's immunity idol was real. So in this episode 5, Dawn is eliminated because Scott framed her and she used one of Scott's replicas as the idol. So what I'm saying is, what if the idol was real? So I now had Dawn. Dawn was one of my favorites. She was a really good written character. I did enjoy her. So right off the bat, Scott was eliminated because Scott had the second most amount of votes. Dawn was going to vote him off because he was throwing challenges and she figured that out. Scott's one of my favourite characters in Revenge Island. I think he's a really well-written villain. So I think Scott's out. Scott's just out. And episode 6, so Dawn would then be trying to talk to her team and explaining that how Scott was throwing challenges and sabotaging his own team. So, and she says one of the reasons why she didn't steal the items was, here's the people that she stole it from. And correct me if I'm wrong in the comments if I've missed anyone. She stole from Lightning, his powder, Anne-Maria's hairbrush, and from Joe's whistle. And Dawn would explain why would she steal from the other team when she doesn't even know them, and even Lightning, and Scott's tooth. And she points out that Scott could easily place it in there at any point, and how Scott was going to originally frame Brick in this last episode, but then changed his mind to Dawn. I think that's enough to win Brick and Sam over. And Lightning, I know he's Lightning. The rats would forgive her, but I think the maggots aren't quite there yet. So episode 6 rolls around, and this is basically Runaway model. So this is and Sam hasn't touched a video game console and his brain's still going to mush. And basically the maggots still have their idea. Instead of Brick taking charge, I think Dawn would actually take charge, because we see that Brick's not really one to take. He's not really a leader. Like, we see that Brick's more of taking commands and sir and ma'am. So I think Dawn would actually take charge of trying to save Lindsay from the Yeti, which they would do the talent show, and then it would change to save Lindsay. So they basically get to the top, and the rats would still use the Yeti, the maggots use the worm, and the maggots win the first part of the challenge. It would then go on to saving now Lindsay after she gets captured. So, and then we know that basically, as Sam would still do his Brick and Lightning get hit down. Joe still has makeup on, trying to attract the Yeti, because it's Zoe and Maria that does that in Chester. Dawn would go up and talk and calm down the Yeti. So I think the rats would actually win, considering the fact that Dawn can talk to the Yeti, so she can calm it down. And I think the rats actually win this challenge. So it's kind of funny with Scott not being here, the rats now win. Calm down the Yeti, tell her to give her back Lindsay, and they win as a result. Elimination's tough because the maggots don't go to elimination this early on until right near to the merge. And even then, Anne-Marie quit, so you could argue that nobody on the maggots really actually was voted off besides Dakota Zoid. So, but I would have to assume that Mike, Cameron, Zoe would vote for Anne-Marie would vote for Zoe. I think Joe will vote for Anne-Marie. Cameron probably would vote for Joe. And then Mike is the swing vote, so he can either, who would he vote for? I assume that he would vote for Anne-Marie. I think everyone just votes for Anne-Marie because I think Cameron would realise jumping that if, let's say, Joe was voted off, then it would just be these three and they can always vote Anne-Marie next round. But Zoe and Anne-Marie, they're voting each other. Joe probably would vote for Anne-Marie because she wants to be a great leader and prove to her team that she's useful on challenges. I think Cameron would realise that Anne-Marie is not helpful, so I think he'd vote Anne-Maria, and Mike would also vote Anne-Maria. So I think Anne-Maria is unfortunately sadly eliminated here. It's a shame. Anne-Maria is one of my favourite characters. So Anne-Maria's out. But that was a close one because I could see Joe getting eliminated here. So if you want to leave a comment saying no, it should have been Joe, that's fair enough. But for me, I think the situation that the Maggots are in, I think they would just vote off. Zoe would get Mike and Cameron to vote off Anne-Maria. Now, I could see a situation where she asks Cameron and Mike to vote off Joe, but I think she would get rid of Anne-Maria considering the veto drama. Episode 7. So the team swap. We know that Joe swaps for the Rats, but who would swap on their team? So Dawn, Lightning, or Brick? I think Brick's out the running because he already was switched in a non-elimination round. And I don't think it makes sense for him to be switched back. So you have to be Dawn, or Lightning, or Sam. I'll spin a wheel to determine how and who would get brought back onto that team. So here we have it. Let's see the character we've decided. Ooh, Lightning. Okay. It could be any of them, those three, but in this case, I'm going to say it's Lightning. Because Chris would volunteer a strong player. I don't think Dawn would do it. And Sam definitely wouldn't do it. So I think Joe and Lightning swap. It's kind of funny the two who create have a little rivalry in the season and are in an alliance swapped teams by Scott not being here. Episode 7. So this is the minecarts challenge. And get the golden Chris statue. So Joe would still be leading her team. Brick would go down the rope like Lightning does originally, using rope burn. I think Dawn could just get the animals to bring her down, but because of the waist, I think she wouldn't be able to do it in this case. So I think she would just have to slide down the rope. Brick would be carrying Sam. Lightning would cause a cave-in on... instead of the Rats, I think he would actually cause a cave-in on the Maggots team, because now he's on this team. And I think in this, I actually think that Joe would put the fireflies on Brick's head now. Brick would still use his shoe to scare the Maggots like the original... Originally on the Rats team, we could just fast forward to where we get to the point where everyone is in golden Chris statues. In this original version of this episode, Scott has the statue, but then accidentally drops it because he's throwing challenges. But now Lightning would just get there, and Brick. Lightning wouldn't be throwing the challenge. Whoever gets the statue wouldn't be throwing the challenge, because there's no reason for no one to do that now. And because Lightning has a statue, he gets in the cart for his team. Mike, Zoe, and Cameron would still be saved by the Gophers by Brick. And I think that the Maggots would still win this challenge. So it's kind of funny by Scott not throwing the challenge here, they would actually win. But do I think Joe votes Brick off? No. I think Joe would make a deal with Brick. Because even though Brick caused him the loss, and I think she would want to get rid of Dawn, I think Sam is in trouble. Because Sam's brain's gone to mush. He isn't very helpful in challenges. He's not a strong team player, which Joe naturally would like. Strong players and help is useful in challenges. So I think she would want to get rid of Sam. So I think Sam would actually get eliminated in this episode. So Sam's out. Because I know that she would see Dawn as an option, but she would see that Dawn's more useful in challenges than Sam. Sam did it one episode better than the canon, so episode 8. So this is basically the Raft challenge and saving Gwen and Sam. And Dakota doesn't come back as a player because the only reason why Dakota comes back is because Anne-Maria quit, but she doesn't quit this time, so there's no real reason for the Mags to have an extra player back. and everyone wakes up on the rafts, Lightning would get attacked on the maggots now by the squid. I think Dawn could just speak to the squid and they are able to get across. So the rats win the first part of the challenge and the maggots have to wear the necklaces. Which ultimately Fang goes flying into it and crashed into the squid, but that wouldn't happen this time because Dawn's already spoke to it. Because there's no Scott, so they have their rivalry. So the rats get the map and the maggots are left with the necklaces on their necks. So, and the rats were originally given a map, but then Scott sabotaged the map because he's throwing challenges. But now that wouldn't happen in this timeline. So, and Dakota would just be searching for Sam as an individual rather than as a group, so she won't do that friendship arc with Zoe now. Because Dakota's not there to throw the alligator into the bush, the maggots would have to actually go around the bush now. So I think the rats would win because I think the rats would be able to find where Gwen and Sam are and dig them out faster than the maggots. So it's kind of funny by Scott not throwing the challenge and they had to go around the bush instead of going through the bush. They actually lose. So Mike, Zoe, and Cameron all vote for Lightning. It's clearly Lightning. Lightning's out here. These three are friends. They like each other. Cameron wouldn't accidentally tell Scott that was personalized Mike's personalized because first of all, he's not there. So that wouldn't happen in this timeline. So Lightning's out. Lightning's one of my favorite characters in Revenge. It's a shame. It's merge day. This is our merge cast. Bye bye rats. Bye bye maggots. So the only difference here in the merge, we have Dawn and Brick instead of Lightning and Scott. So episode 9. So in this original version of this episode, Mike leaves Zoe, who gets attacked by when she's looking for a key in the bucket, because Scott's telling him that no, you gotta help me. But now that wouldn't happen. Mike's just helping Zoe. So who would get captured? I think Joe and Brick would get captured, and everyone else gets to their cart. And Joe can't betray Brick or Lightning because, first of all, Fang wouldn't be here to chase Scott because Fang's not here. So they'd be racing to the end. These guys are spraying their spray paint. So at the totem, Scott originally threw the can at Zoe and she fell off, but now that wouldn't happen because he's not there. So I think the person who'd win this challenge is Mike. Because Mike was the closest of all everyone originally. And likely, in my opinion, would have won had Scott not been there to sabotage his own team. To sabotage Mike. So, who gets voted off it? Mike's immune. So, Joe is voting for Zoe because Mike would still reveal his personality as Zoe in the episode. Because Zoe and Mike are a couple, and Joe realizes if they get to the final 3, they're going to choose each other. Brick and Dawn, I think she's able to convince Brick and Dawn over Zoe. And I think Cameron and Mike. I just think everyone's going to vote off Joe here. I think Brick don't like Joe. Dawn doesn't like Joe. I think Joe's gone. I think there's no way that Joe can save herself here. So I think Joe's actually eliminated in episode 9. Episode 10. Episode 10. So we can actually, basically, Heather comes back. She tests the obstacle course, and they basically have to make an obstacle course they have to pick a card to make a random thing to build. So the thing that they build, I know that Cameron gets the rocket ship and Zoe gets the plane. What would everyone else get? I think Mike gets the bird. Dawn gets the hot air balloon, and Brick gets the helicopter. And could they make it? Yes. I think if the Lightning could make a helicopter or something like that, I think these three definitely could. So they're racing to the top. Obviously, Cameron's has that smoke machine that Joe uses originally by smoking her out. So everyone's just racing to the top now, and they all like each other, so no one's sabotaging anyone now. And I actually think with Mike here, Zoe would just do better in the challenge considering the fact that she's not going to get revenge on Scott. So these three are together. Camera goes flying into the Camera would win immunity by flying in and flying in. Like he's not there this time, so I think Cameron wins immunity. And it's a close one, this, because it's trying to figure out who these three would vote with. So these three vote for Cameron. These two vote for Cameron. These three are going to vote for Dawn, I think, because they're a lot closer to Brick. I think the three would vote for Brick, because I think they would see Brick as a bigger threat. So, 5th place, Brick, I think. I think Brick is still out. I think Brick is out here. Actually, yeah, I think Brick's gone. I think Brick's eliminated. I kind of struggled with that because I could see Dawn. Episode 11. So this is Eat, Puke, Me, Worry. Everyone is cooking, so nobody's obviously sabotaging. Cameron would still win the first part of the challenge. The second part of the challenge would be get racing across the finish line. I think Cameron at this point realizes that Mike and Zoe are going to obviously choose each other. So I think reluctantly he'd make a deal with Dawn. And I think Dawn would accept. So they just race to the finish line. Mike is with Zoe. She wouldn't go commando Zoe this time. Because her necklace wouldn't have broken, or if it had, I think Mike just say it's fine, we can fix it. And I think Cameron still wins immunity. And it's pretty obvious that Mike and Zoe are going to vote for Dawn. And Dawn and Cameron are going to vote for Mike. Zoe, I think. I think they vote for Zoe. So, I don't know what this tiebreaker could be, because in this original episode, Scott would have got home, so I'm going to say any Zoe Dawn tie. Actually, I think Zoe Dawn tie. I think Dawn wins that tiebreaker. I think Dawn could win with the animals and just get across to the end. So I think Dawn actually wins that challenge. That tiebreaker. So I think Zoe's out here. She did win all of them, Mike, so I can't really have two of the same finalists. So Dawn wins. Episode 12. So Mike and Cameron will be travelling together with the halves of the map. So basically, in this case, they're all just traveling together. I think everyone's just traveling together realistically. And I think it would be a similar situation to Zoe. I think that everyone would be racing for the flower. I think Svetlana, Mike would transform into Svetlana. She would have the flower. I think Cameron gets attacked by Larry. This gets Mike's attention. I think he goes back to save Cameron, and I think Dawn's able to get the flower and win immunity. And I think she would choose to get rid of Mike because Mike's the more threatening player of the two, and Cameron would be an easy person to beat in the finale. So Mike's out. And they both get winning endings. So making the armor, I think Dawn makes some armor. And I think Dawn's quite a bit stronger than Cameron. So I think ultimately Cameron has to use his smarts to try and pin it for 3 seconds. My canon winner in this would be Dawn, because of my what if, I always like to kind of pick a canon winner. So in Cameron's is quite similar, and in Dawn's alternate ending, she's able to pin it for 3 seconds. And this is the elimination order, and kind of how I think the season would have gone. If Dawn had the immunity episode 5 and eliminated, we had the immunity idol. So there are some episodes like Zoe, Mike, where I could see the Mask and Cameron vote off Dawn. And then you could say Cameron here, and those two are the finalists. But I'm just going to do it as this because I think it's more realistic. And I think Cameron would realise that he's quite smart, so I think he would realize that if it came down to who Mike and Zoe take this to the finale, would it be them, each other, or Cameron? So yeah, and Britt coming 5th. That's pretty crazy that Britt came 5th in this timeline. So thank you guys for watching. Comment, like, subscribe, and let me know if you have any what ifs for the channel. And yeah, peace, farewell.